Unlock your full potential with Brain and Focus, a powerful supplement designed to boost mental clarity, enhance memory, and sharpen concentration. Made from a blend of scientifically proven ingredients like ginkgo biloba, omega-3, and essential vitamins, Brain and Focus is crafted to fuel your mind. Our process ensures maximum potency and effectiveness, delivering the perfect balance of brain-boosting nutrients. Take just one capsule daily, as prescribed by your healthcare provider, and feel the difference. Whether it's powering through your workday or staying sharp in life's challenges, Brain and Focus keeps you at the top of your game. Stay sharp, stay focused, and stay ahead with Brain and Focus. Brain and Focus, fuel your mind, achieve more. Go get this product at blackhotfirenetwork.com at the Sports and Nutrition Store.
Oh, fam, I think the lights went off on Joby or something. Maybe it's me. My internet is going out. Let me see.
I seen clear. Damn, that girl there, she be so fine. Thinking to myself, how I wanna make her mine. She looks something like a fantasy, but I had to switch it up to reality. She looked like something out of poster, so I had to get it together and approach her. So I took a swing like a golfer, and now I'm proud that she the gun to my holster.
Baby, you ain't gotta say a word, cause you know that you got me, you got me. And I don't even wanna say a word, cause I know that I got you, and you like it, and you like it when I put it down on you. And I like it, oh boy, I love it when you put it down on me.
Okay, she writes him up and knocks him down.
Yes, good afternoon, family. Grand Rising. Hope you guys are doing amazing. 26 minutes past the top of the hour. Good afternoon once again. And of course, karibuni sana to everyone live with us on the radio, on the network, everyone live with us on the YouTube channel that is also on Rumble, Spreaker, for those who catch this on Spotify as well, and also on BitChute. Karibuni sana once again. My name is Joby, and this is the Pan-African Bliss Show on the media of the 21st century, where we get to discuss matters affecting the African continent and the people within it, and of course, how we can bring a solution on every conversation we're having right here. On today's conversation, we shall be talking about, it's actually a question, but also a conversation. Is slavery a Black history or a white history? Because yesterday I bumped into something that got me super confused. I'm like, I've never had this question ever before, ever. I've never had any Black person, any white person talking about this, but it seems to be actually a topic that is really, really deep. If you talk about it, if you try to analyze it and understand it deeper, it's something you need to question. That was slavery a Black thing, a Black history, or is it a white history?
Yeah, we're trying to practice. There's different forms of slavery.
We shall be talking
different forms of slavery. So if you're asking, was slavery started by white people? The answer is no. And you're mixing slavery with indentured servitude. So as the Africans became, less smart, they created indentured servitude, which is not nothing like the slavery that white people, Arabs, produced. See, when white people got slavery, it was called, theirs was so cruel, so inhuman, it's called chattel slavery. Africans never had anything called chattel slavery. So when Africans would fight each other, have wars against each other, when they would have captives, they would take the people that they conquered into their indentured indenturedness. So they would make them servants and have them be part of their family, have like a servant, something like that. That's why you still got today in Africa servant quarters. That's still, it's so prevalent in Africa that you buy a house, you have something called servant quarters in Africa, which is really nowhere else. Because that was part of the culture. Servant quote, they were servants, not slaves. Europeans got a hold of the custom since they're wicked and created a whole system of slavery out of it. Shadow, where they beat, rape, and murder. And the African didn't have someone, they was a servant, their children would be servants, or their children would be slaves. It's like saying the Europeans took slavery and industrialized it. So, Africans, let's say you had something that's like um, um, uh, agrarian, an agrarian kind of culture the African had, right? And the European took the slavery and industrialized it because their nature is always wicked. Always, how can I get the most? How can I steal, rob, and murder? The African didn't have servants to kill and murder them. He said, well, okay, we went to war with this tribe, and so we're going to make these men servants for maybe for how many years or whatever. But their children weren't subject to being servants for the rest of their lives. It wasn't a group of people that were going to be slaves forever. Well, the Europeans did it, and the Arabs did, because the Arabs were worse, and the Europeans were 10 times as worse. So they got worse with each low vibrational individual who practiced that practice. In the beginning, was the slavery in Africa? No, of course not. But as they descended, 25,000 year great cycle of time, they became more ignorant. They started practicing things that were non-spiritual, non-godly. So you get you get a history of now servitude. So now the European is trying to overlook his slavery past and culture. Oh, we got it from the African. The African practiced it first in line. It was never the kind of slavery you see Europeans practice ever in Africa, ever. It never existed. And when the African found out about what was happening to their people, that they thought the African being loving naive again, Joe, be naive, right? Being naive. The Africans instead of calling them a moron, we call them naive, right? Africans considered docile, naive. So when the African found out the kind of slavery that was going on, that's when they started fighting. They, whoa, what? They didn't know it was going to be this kind of inhumanity, Joby. They didn't know it was going to be brutal raping and killing and work you to death and all that kind of. There was nobody working nobody to death in Africa.
Of course. And
peeing in your mouth and shitting in your mouth. That kind of stuff. What is that kind of stuff going on in Africa?
It's crazy.
So,
because, I'll read this article as we get deeper into it, because I was trying to understand it, and I'm still trying to understand it, because if we talk about slavery is not a black history, we're going back to before the white men ever showed up in the continent.
Yeah, because they practiced African practice. Yeah, before the white man showed up, Africans practiced a form of servitude, right? Because they had these tribal wars, right? Every now and then. So when I would capture or defeat another tribe, I would put them in servitude, Joe. So that happened. So they put them in servitude. So, but can you call it really slavery?
I'd say it was a way of. I don't think it's slavery.
The definition matters, Joe. Definitions matter. So they'll say your servitude is slavery because they're trying to exonerate themselves, Joby, from all the wicked shit they've done. They're trying to exonerate themselves. Say, well, the Africans practiced it. They would have learned. The Africans practiced slavery, but no, never like them. When they got started in Europe with just them enslaving themselves. That's why slavery is named after them. Their tribe is called Slavs. The Russians are Slavs. So you had the Germans that were enslaving the Slavic people. Are your Russians, your Eastern Europeans are Slavics, right? Polish, Russians, Moldovians, Romanians, whatever. Those are all Slavic people, Joe. So that's where the term come from, slave, Slav, because they were enslaving themselves first. They were doing that wicked shit on themselves first. And then as they were, oh, it's Africans and they're kind, we can knock these Africans over the head and do it to them. That's how, because slavery don't start with us because we were never slaves. So they're trying, they're now trying to exonerate themselves and call our indentured servants slave. Other Africans practice slavery. That's where we got it from. They did it, and they sold their own people. So the thing. Europeans have to say, "Oh, it was these dumb niggas. They sold their people to us." Well, is that is that black people knew what you were doing? That black people understood that you were it was an industrial level, the cruelty, the shit that went on. Because when the Africans understood it, they stopped it. Even the wicked ass woman king empire, we looked at Goofy movie, the Dahomey Empire, they stopped it because they realized how brutal and inhumane it was when they found out what the Europeans actually really did. But go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so this the reason why I came up, of course, with this topic. I bumped into this article, and of course, it shocked me. If I bump into something I've never heard about, it shocks me at first, and I went deeper to dig about it. So this lady says slavery is not a black history, and that really caught my attention because I'm like, what do you mean it's not a black history?
What it's
Because
saying, well, was not our history because we enslave anybody. So it's actually white. So what she's saying is white people history, not our. We were instead of calling ourselves slaves, Joby, we were prisoners of war. They warred on us and
Mhm,
took us as captives. So slavery is not black history. It's there. It's white people. We never invade nobody and made them slaves. That's them. Go ahead.
okay. So it says slavery is not black history, it's a white history. And
Yes.
she says, no, I will not elaborate further or take any questions at this time. And it goes ahead. This article says slavery is a white history and how we survived it is black history. Someone
Yes.
else says,
Exactly.
if we aren't careful, an entire generation or more will grow up not knowing slavery or the Holocaust that happened. We're going to get into that. But this article talks about how, think about what it would mean for our education system to properly teach students, young children, and teenagers about enslavement and what they would learn about the
That's why you're
country.
not taught it. Ain't it funny? That's why we had the show yesterday with Netanyahu. They keep going back to their Holocaust. Oh, Holocaust, the Holocaust, Holocaust. But the African is never taught to know his own Holocaust. You're not
Exactly.
taught slavery in none of the African books. That means your puppets have failed. That should have been meant. That's why Ibn Torre was talking about that slave. You're supposed to have been taught all throughout Africa, the people that invaded, that enslaved you. You worshiping all these people from Dubai who enslaved you, from Europe who enslaved you, because you don't know any of this history. So now you're left idiotic to your enemies. You like the African doesn't even know his enemies. You should have been taught this. You have natural enemies. And when I tell you this as an African, you look at me crazy because you haven't been taught that you have had enemies. These people have always been our historic enemies. I can't get mad at you because you were never taught this. And that's a shameful thing. Go ahead, Joby.
It continues and says it's ugly. For generations, we've been unwilling to do. We've been unwilling to do it. Elementary schools teachers worried about disturbing children tell students about the good people like the abolitionists and the black people who escaped to freedom, but leave out the details of why they were protesting and what they were fleeing. The middle school and high school teachers stick to lessons plans from outdated textbooks that promote long-held errant views. That means students graduate with a poor understanding of how
How
slavery
wicked it was. They
country.
don't know. The white people, Joby, want to erase their how Joby, slavery was so wicked, so evil. It's unfathomable. They don't want to put that in none of their books because man, they control all the books. The evilness of slavery, Joby, it'll fuck your mind up. It's so wicked,
Mhm.
so barbaric, so wicked. It will shock the mind how these people are. That's why they don't want it in none of their books. That's why they keep erasing history. They don't want this. the evilness of it. Imagine, I mean, it's so shocking that it shocks the mind. Go ahead.
So let me share a couple of videos that I bumped into, of course,
Yeah.
explaining number one, because when you talk about, I was trying to look at, of course, Google, their definition of slavery. According to Google, slavery is the condition where the human beings is owned by another, treated as property, and deprived of basic rights and freedoms. It involves
Mhm.
considered labor, often maintained through intimidation,
True.
brutality, and dehumanization, with slavery typically working long hours without pay. But the part they're not explaining is, like you're saying, which is not part of the textbooks, it's not part of education, the system of education, is the evil deeds they did. Because when you talk
Yeah,
about,
they want to whitewash it because see, Joe, but they create a fake story of them being superior and godly. That's a lie. You put slavery at the end, and the heinous treatment that was done, it throws away their fake. See, every narrative they tell you is a lie. They put themselves on top on a pedestal. You believe all these nonsense lies of their culture. Their culture's always been wicked, evil, and just like you said, full of hate. So they don't want that story told. So the true history of slavery is always obfuscated. So remember that plantation you showed getting burnt down in Louisiana?
Mhm.
And they had a torture room up in there, Joby, that they covered up. They had people getting married. Remember, they sealed off the torture room, so nobody. So you be in the house, no one would know. Behind this wall, there was a torture room. They used to torture black people and rape them and beat them. They sealed that off. They sealed that part off. So they were still having weddings in that thing every year, like 5, 6 times a year. How many years they people were renting out that mansion, Joby, for having weddings and birthday parties, and it's full of wickedness.
It's really, because if we go but one by one of the deeds, the evil deeds they really commit on black people, it's really a lot. Let's talk about the removing of skin, using it for
For
clothing,
leather, for
for
and clothing and furniture, and also they would eat us.
Let's talk about that. Hanging you, burning you, and eating you.
Uh,
Let's talk
they,
about them cutting your hair forcefully because your hair texture is very unique from theirs, and putting stuffing them in pillows. Let's
and
talk about
pillows and furniture.
let's talk about them buying, taking children and selling them for property. What we just read the other time.
Mhm.
It's really really deep. So slavery is
You
just not about
you're not gonna
what.
put that in. You're not gonna put that in no book.
Mhm. Slavery is just not about you being owned by a person or being treated as property, being deprived of basic rights and freedom. It's also the torture that comes along with
Exactly.
being owned by this particular group of people. But let me share this
Hmm.
one video here of this white person explaining how, of course, what he understands
When studying American history,
when it comes.
one of the most important questions to answer is, how did Americans justify slavery? How did they convince themselves that they
They
had the
use the
right
Bible.
to
Because exactly, that's another question. How did they just
They use the Bible, Job. It says in the Bible, it's Ham. It's the curse. Africans are from the tribe of Ham. It's the curse of Ham. And God said in the Bible that they're supposed to be slaves. It's in the Bible, Job.
Mhm. Yeah.
own
Book they
black
made up.
people as property? What we find is that they had numerous ways to justify slavery, including
Bible.
philosophy, religion, science, and
Exactly.
straight up
Religion.
lies and self deception. One prominent way that slave owners justified slavery was by turning to the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, who is without a doubt one of the most famous philosophers in human history. American education in the 18th and 19th centuries had a heavy focus on ancient Greece and Rome, and Aristotle's philosophy was
Now,
studied
now,
by many
now,
Americans,
now
including
remember,
the founding.
remember Aristotle was made up. Aristotle's a lie. Aristotle studied in Kemet. He was at the fall when the Europeans finally captured Kemet in 334 AD. I mean BC. When they finally go into Kemet, all the fake books he wrote are lies. All the books they give him, those are African manuals that they stole and put his name on. All African, all of it. Because remember, because Greek didn't have any language. They didn't have any language. So him writing books is a lie. They didn't have any written systems. And Greeks were illiterate. They didn't have any writing systems. They didn't have any books. So they tell me he wrote all these books. These are African books because the African created the Greek language. The Greeks didn't have any language that was spoken. They didn't have any writings. The African created the Greek language for the white people when they came in and conquered them, so they could have a language to speak. So that's a lie, and they know it's a lie. Oh, Aristotle, all the people you learn about in school, these great philosophers, are all African. It's all African thought. The one they tell the truth was which was Socrates, which is a predecessor before preceded Aristotle. He took those writings back to the Europeans and they killed them because they said they were subversive. Because the Africans said you don't sleep with children, you don't rape boys and rape children. See, that was European culture, sleeping with babies and pedophilia. That was normal to them. And Africans say you don't sleep with men. Men don't sleep with men. Women don't sleep with women. So they killed Socrates for Africans saying you don't do that. That's filthy. That's filthy work. So all these Greek philosophers are all fake. It's all African. That's why you got to get the book. What's that? J. Rogers? No, Stolen Legacy. Who wrote? Do this for me real quick, Joby. Look up. Go to Google real quick and say, who wrote Stolen Legacy? And when they steal all your shit like they do and then claim it's them. Who wrote the book Stolen Legacy, Joe?
George James. That is George
Okay,
James.
okay, Professor Dr. George James. So George James wrote that one, and J.A. Rogers wrote there's no color line, but they were stealing all our history and reclassifying as them. So it's been a thousands of years of stealing of African people's history. He's naming people that is not this. They're not philosophers. It's African. It's a stolen legacy. So yeah, that's right. That's George G. and James. That's his name. Stolen legacy. So they everybody he's naming is fake. Those are African philosophies that they stole and renamed and classified as their own. It's a stolen legacy. But go ahead, Joe.
Fathers. Even though Aristotle was extremely intelligent and a very influential thinker, he left the world a dark legacy when it came to his views on slavery. Aristotle believed that slavery was normal and natural, and that some men were born
because
to be
he's
masters
white.
And others were born to
Exactly.
be slaves.
See, I understand under psychopathic nature, so that's why they're going to take it. See, for them, they make it industrial. Their mindset. See, you're dealing with psychopaths. He's a psychopath. Their culture is psychopathic. So they really believe in slavery and you should treat people like shit. That's why they're hateful to everybody. That's their culture. See, you got to understand. That's why you need to be taught. You got to be taught their culture, who they are. This is who they are to their core. So whatever they practice, whatever it be slavery, whatever it is, it's always going to be evil. Because it always goes back to their inhumanity. They're inhumane. That's what you're seeing right now happening with Israel right now. Right now. Israel and Iran right now. Like they don't understand why don't Iran stop because they're not supposed to win. We're white. We're supposed to be able to kill you and do what we want to do. That's their mindset. Their mindset is they're psychopaths. That's their nature. You're dealing with a psychopath. And the Africans have not come to terms with that. Because it seems harsh, but it's true. You're dealing with psychopath. There's psychopathy. Their whole culture has always been based on psychopathy. That's why when they got control of Africa and turned to a slave thing, it was psychopathic. Because that's their culture. Psychopathy is their fallback position. It's hard for people to understand that because we're Africans, we can't understand nobody being a psychopath and evil as if that's natural. We can't understand that. And that's what it is. Every time they get control of something, it always leads into debauchery and psychopathy. Always. Go ahead, Joby.
Argued that humanity is divided into two, the masters and the slaves, or those who have the right to command and those who are born to obey. Therefore, to justify slavery, all American slave owners had to do was point to Aristotle. They argued that white men were the natural-born masters and black people were the natural-born slaves.
Wow.
However, an even greater justification for slavery than Aristotle was Christianity.
The
Slave
Bible.
owners
Yep.
frequently
Your
justified
Christianity.
the right to own black people as property by citing the Bible and arguing
Ham.
that slavery was sanctioned by God. As Samuel F.B. Morse put it, slavery per se is not a sin. It is a social construction ordained from the beginning of the world for the wisest purposes.
From the fake religion. Now, what loving God would put anybody in slavery? None, because they see that God is not God; it's fake.
What type of social construction is that? You know, that's crazy.
That's in the Bible that these morons read, Joby. They don't. It's in the Bible. It's in there. It's in there, Joby. The one that Irton sings joy to and all that goofy shit. It's in there.
That's crazy.
They completely miss it. It's right there that God is telling that black people are supposed to be slaves. It's in there.
There are plenty of passages from both the Old and New Testament that condone slavery. For example, Exodus provides detailed rules about owning slaves and tells slave owners that the slave is their property. In the New Testament, Paul says, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to gain their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord.
Now you should know that, but that's they rewrote. That's the King James. But now you should know, like common sense, that this book is wicked and written by wicked ass people. It has nothing to do with any God. But the Africans' minds have been so messed up with this nonsense. Shout out to Irriton, they believe this wicked ass shit. It's in there. There's no God ever existed ever. Even it's so wicked. The book is so wicked. No. But the Africans that wrote it, a part of it, did try to put some real esoteric knowledge in it, some real knowledge that precedes the wickedness. But the book is just like they're all wicked inventions. They're all wicked. They're about control and dominance. And nothing to do with any God. There's no God that would be. You won't find any true creator in any of that book. Whether it be the Quran, the Bible, the Torah. There's no creator in there.
Slave owners would often read the Bible out loud to their slaves to show them that God approved of their enslavement. For example, when Solomon Northrop was enslaved in Louisiana, his master would preach pro-slavery sermons on Sundays. His favorite part of the Bible was Luke chapter 12, verse 47, which states, "The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready, or does not do what the master wants, will be beaten with many blows." Solomon Northrop described how after reading this line, his master would explain, that N-word that don't take care, that don't obey his Lord, that's his master. That their N-word shall be beaten with many stripes. Now many signifies a great many. 40, 100, 150, that's scripture. One of the most popular ways that slave owners used the Bible to justify slavery was through the curse of Ham. Most of you are probably familiar with the story of Noah. In Genesis, we learn that God told Noah he was going to destroy the world in a great flood.
Now pause this. Now, for all you morons who still worship this nonsense as Christianity, you idiots, you are a moron. Yes, you're a moron. The idea that anybody had a boat and put all animals on the planet in this boat, right? You're an idiot. Had a boat with 5 or 6 people taking care of all these animals for 40 days and 40 nights on this boat. Can you imagine you get every animal on the planet on a boat? Are you out of your mind? You are a moron. And then the story goes after they land, Noah is drunk. Now, Noah's the one drunk. And suppose his son Ham laughs that his daddy is drunk. And so his daddy, Noah, the drunk one, curses Ham for being disrespectful, for laughing at him being drunk. And then goes on and says, all your children and children will be slaves to your two brothers, Japheth and Shem. Can you imagine what dumbass God would grant this goofy ass curse to this drunk bastard who's naked? Because his son said, "Hey, Dad, you're drunk and naked, you moron. What you doing?" And laughs at him. So this is in your goofy book that you morons believe. This is in your goofy fake book, and you think this is the word of any creator of the universe. You're out of your effing mind. You are a moron. That's why the real shamans and Africans say they can't talk to you because you're stupid. You believe in goofy nonsense. And so this is how white people justify. So they said, one thing they hate, right? White people get mad because they say Ham. So they know that the original Egyptians were considered Hamites. See, they tried to make them white. He said black people were Ham. But the original Egyptians were considered Hamites. Oh, well, no. Well, those Hamites became white. What? Their stories, their lives be so convoluted and crazy. You're dealing with the mind of a psychopath. It's absolutely crazy. Because in your book, it tells you that Ham is Egypt. In your goofy Bible, it tells you Ham is Egypt. They get mad about that. Not the people of the day. Ham is black. Because they're writing this goofy book, right? They're making this fake story up, this fake religion. It's all fake. I want to say to emphasize it with guilt. It's all fake. And I hope I'm hurting your backbone. Your goofy Muslims and Christians, all fake. That's why nothing ever happens to me when I say F Jesus, F Allah. That never happens to me. You know why? Because, just like we said F SpongeBob. SpongeBob ain't real either. So if I say F SpongeBob, ain't nothing going to happen to me.
But to build an ark.
They justified their evil with this fake book and these fake passages, and gave it to black people. And you got black people today think, oh, we're cursed. We got the curse of that. You got grown, as Joey said, adults, grown ass black men and women in Africa, in America, in the Caribbean, in Brazil, everywhere else, talking about the curse of Ham today. Today, and believe it, it's real. Oh, we sin against God because we seen Noah naked. Oh my God, why have we seen Noah naked? I ain't got nothing to do with Noah. You mean I'm supposed to be cursed because Ham seen his daddy naked? I'm supposed to be cursed because Ham seen his daddy naked and drunk. Make it make sense. Enjoy, Joby.
Fill it with 2 of every animal so he could repopulate the world after the flood.
2 of every animal.
In the story, Noah obeyed God, and after the flood, he became a drunk. I mean,
he became a drunk.
He did just watch God annihilate
he became a drunk. But it's my fault he's drunk, Job. It's your fault, Job. How dare you say I'm drunk when I'm drunk? Go ahead.
In Genesis, we hear of a strange story that involves one of Noah's drinking binges. One day, Noah gets drunk and passes out naked.
And
his son Ham sees him and tells his 2 brothers, who cover up their father with a blanket. When Noah wakes up and realizes that his son saw him naked and dishonored him, he curses Ham's son Canaan and says, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be." Some Americans interpreted this passage from the Bible to mean that all of Ham's descendants were forever doomed to be slaves. And they argued that black skin was the mark of the curse of Ham. Therefore, the Americans
they try to say that no other people were white. Ham became black. Now we know I'm just saying we know it's stupid because we know black people are first. So we know this is a lie. All these things, that's why you guys know real history, Joby, and real science. We know black people first. So we know did nobody black come from nobody white. So this whole story's a lie. This is what he said. That's why black people got no real science and real history, Joby. That's why you can break down this lie. They're saying that that now that was the curse that God made everybody black now. We're cursed people because we're black. Not that we are the straight creation of God. We're the first. We're not the last. We're the first. But in your goofy book, it tells you that God cursed us and made us black. Everybody was white. You can't get white. You can't get black from white, Joby. Ever. You can only get white from black. Black is first. Black is the superior. You can't get black from white. As this goofy book is saying, you can only get white from black. You can only get all other races from black because black is the superior color. Is the number one spectrum that creates all colors. So that's why you got to have real education in school. You got this book telling that everybody was white, and then God cursed you and made him black. Everybody black is cursed. Are you crazy? But that's what Iraton believes. That's what these goofy bastards believe.
You made her mad. She's gone to the back office. So.
I don't care if she's mad or not.
Justify slavery. All
she's getting this work.
Wasn't their fault. It was Noah who cursed them to be slaves. And since this came from the Bible, it was seen as the word of God. This story might seem ridiculous, but many slave owners use this argument to rationalize their right to own black people. It didn't matter that this story was irrational and absurd. The point is that they were able to use Christianity as an excuse.
It's rational and absurd, and you got black people today still believe it. Yes, it's irrational. Yes, it's absurd. But if I went to Joby's daddy and stepmama, they'd be reading that shit and believe every word of it. It's irrational and stupid, and they believe it. Go ahead.
Also justified slavery through the scientific theories of the time, which were heavily influenced by racism and white supremacy.
By racism.
For example, the French scientist Georges Cuvier argued that there were three distinct races of human beings: the white Caucasian, the yellow Mongolian, and the black Ethiopian. He said the Caucasian is distinguished by the beauty of the oval formed by his head and the color of his hair. To this variety, the most highly civilized nations, and those which have generally held all others in subjection, are indebted for their origin. On the other hand, he argued, the Negro has always remained in the most complete state of utter barbarism.
What?
For scientists like this, the fact that white people enslaved black people was simply a law of nature. For men like this, slavery was
he said you being black, you've always been a savage, Joby. Not saying that you're the one created their cult. You the one gave them history, this white man, the education.
I'm like, barbarism. What?
Yeah.
Barbarism? What is barbaric here,
Natural state of the black race. Others, like the French naturalist Georges Louis Buffon, believed that whites were helping black people by enslaving them. He believed that if black people were introduced to the cooler climate of the Americas, their skin would naturally turn white. He argued that in Europe, we behold the human form in its greatest perfection, and this is where we ought to form our ideas of the real and natural color of man. He said that people live natural color man. Now
pause it. Now you understood this, that they got the weakest genetics. They got the weakest skin. They got the weakest bodies, the weakest everything, because white is unnatural. Black is natural. White is unnatural. These are facts. Not their lunacy that they're talking here, their fake crackpot science. See, all their science is always based in races. I told you, everything they do is based in the psychopathic need to be first. So everything's a lie for them. Even what we're studying today is a lie because everything for them is based in racism. Always. So when we're going to our college, we think we're learning things. We're not. We're learning things under a racist system because now they got power. Because everything for them is their race, their fake racism first. Always. Always.
Their skin would become as white as the natives of Europe. Therefore, he believed that slavery was good for black people because it would eventually turn them white, which was
now, we know for them they can't be in the sun. They get sunburned. They're dying out right now. They're the race that's dying, but they're the not. See, this out. You're dealing with psychopathy. They know through all their real studies that black is the dominant. Black people are the strongest. Black people live the longest. Black genetics are the best. That's why they steal your organs. They know this. But their psychopathy can't come to it. You must turn white, and it's the natural order things. No. White is degenerate, moron. It's degenerate. Black is dominant. Yours is recessive. Black is dominant. and what God meant everybody to be. White is degenerate. You are a mutation of black. That's why your genes are fucked up. Why you don't live as long. Why your organs are fucked up. Why you can't be in the sun and you burn and you die. Because you're supposed. That's why when you put suntan lotion on, you're black. Black is the fallback position. It's the original. But their psychopathy, because they're degenerate, you know, they push this degeneration on everybody. They got people in Africa and they were skin bleaching. They push their fucked up mindset of lies out to everybody. Said the whole culture, whole white supremacist culture is based on white on top, which is degenerate. Because black is superior. These are just facts, dominant. Not my facts, it's a scientific fact. Right? These are facts. But they've turned everything upside down and inside out based on their, their psychopathic lies. White black people are gonna turn white. What? Then we be all effed up.
I think, like I said personally, where I started trying to question religion is, if the first creation was white, where did black people come from? Just simple mathematics, you
wouldn't exist. Exactly. Where'd you come from? All the angels are white. Everybody in the book is white. The book, because then you wouldn't exist, because only white can come from black. Black can never come from white, Joe.
If you said for us to fill the world, we need to multiply. So who am I multiplying with that is dark, that's actually brought out this other complexion? It's not making sense. So it's
only African can make the Asian, the Indian, and the white man. No other race can create the African, Joe, but you're the first. So there is no other race that precedes and dominates black. Black is the first and the dominant. That's what genetics says. That's what your genes, your organs, you're the dominant.
Period. Let me finish up this one. I share another video as we continue.
Natural and perfect state of humanity. Never mind that human beings originated in Africa. Even abolitionists who opposed slavery still held racist ideas about
Of course they're racist.
For example, the Philadelphia doctor Benjamin Rush believed that black skin was a disease that could be cured, and through the right treatment, black people could eventually become white. Another way that Americans just...
They was living Joby's death, Joby's Christian dream too. When she died, she come white and have blonde hair.
That's so right.
Fight slavery is arguing that by enslaving black people, they were doing them a favor. They argued that slavery was a moral good and benefited the slave.
Remember, you're crazy if you didn't want to be free.
This theory was George Fitzhugh from Virginia. In 1854, he published a book called Sociology for the South, where he argued that black people were inferior to whites and had to be slaves for their own good. Fitzhugh disagreed with the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. Instead, he argued men are not born physically, morally, or intellectually equal. It would be far nearer to the truth to say that some were born with saddles on their backs and others booted and spurred to ride them.
See, everything they do is always psychopathic and evil. See, that's no one made them be evil. This is their natural fallback. They write all these evil doctrines. That's why the world, they got control of the world now still. Everything is evil. They create all these fake evil doctrines. Always.
Black people were born to
be
slaves. He argued the Negro is but a grown child and must be governed as a child. The master occupies toward him the place of parent or guardian. Fitzhugh believed that a free black person was an oxymoron and said he would become an insufferable burden to society. Society has the right to prevent this and can only do so by subjecting him to domestic slavery. Fitzhugh argued that the Negro race is inferior to the white race, and if black people were ever to live in freedom next to whites, then gradual but certain extermination would be their fate. Therefore, Fitzhugh believed that by enslaving black people, whites were helping them. He said,
like what I'm just picking from this, you can see what actually kept them moving to keep that superiority complex is because they know they are inferior, and you are civilized by us. So the more you make us feel inferior, the more you're keeping us away from understanding who Who actually civilized you? Who are you as a human, as a creature, not even as a human being? Who are you as a creature? You're trying to dumb us down mentally for us not to question, why are you behaving different from me? If you're really so humane, why won't you think a reason like me, we can talk situations out, but no, I want to bring a gun. I'm going to bring a gun. That's how they literally respond. I'm going to call the police. That's the way they literally respond. Looking at all this and the names, the terms they came up with, and this is just them being triggered and understanding the fact. Actually, it's fact. And that's why they know this. And this is why, speaking from what this white man here on the screen said, and we had the recent one, his name was Prince something. This other idiot who just said Africans need to be governed and disciplined. We're not capable of governing ourselves.
That was that Eric Prince, the mercenary.
Exactly.
Eric Prince, the owner of Blackwater mercenary group.
I think right now, looking at Israel should make the rest of the world understand what we're really dealing with. Again, I feel like Israel is just the answer to all the equations we've been seeking, all the equations we've been trying to solve. It's all about resources. These people have no power. They have nothing to actually, they have nothing but just their mouth and pale skin color to run. Nothing else. They have nothing to claim of history apart from what we're discussing. They got
their brutality to steal your shit.
Oh yeah, that they do. What they do, no cap. This is crazy, and this is why sometimes I love the fact understanding these things on a deeper level. It takes me back to understand which race is this.
You're supposed to understand
people are. It's all about inferiority.
Exactly.
Which is all about them. It's not about us. It's all
exactly.
Exactly.
But when you're superior, you don't have to. When you're superior, you don't have to put out statements about you being superior. You just are. It speaks for itself.
Yep.
Slavery Christianizes, protects, supports, and civilizes him. He told his readers that the Negro slaves of the South are the happiest and, in some sense, the freest people in the world. Clearly, Americans had no deficit of justifications for why they had the right to own Black people as slaves. However, all of these justifications were meant to do one thing: hide the fact that the real reason why white people enslaved Black people is
they're lazy.
Greed, profit, and power.
Exactly.
Slavery was an economic
had greed, profit, and power, which they never had. We lived with that abundantly because we had laws of living, we had governance of living, we had everything as Africans. We have everything still.
Yep.
Just that we don't know how to use it right now. We don't know. Like we were discussing yesterday or the other day about witchcraft. I'm like, this is not witchcraft. It's just people have understood to manipulate plants and they understand they are used, and you don't. So you call this witchcraft because it's against you.
Yeah, has nothing to do with any witchcraft. There's no such thing as witchcraft is fake, Joby. I learned how to manipulate energy is real. Those are things, and those are God-given gifts that the Creator made you to be able to do. Once you learn it, that's why it's in you as a Black person. That's why it's given to you. Why you have melanin. You're supposed to learn how to access those things.
Yep, because sadly we still have some people being beaten in some parts of Africa for understanding, as much as they're using it for different, they're manipulating it in evil ways. They just know how to manipulate this. You don't, so you can't beat me for understanding what you don't.
Well, no, because it's your choice whether you want to use it for good or bad. It's your choice. Still doesn't make it. That energy is just energy, Joe. But it's not bad or good. You decide what you want to use it for.
That's true. That's super true. But we have this lady also here talking about how slavery also isn't an African history. And
it's time not only to change the narrative, but start telling the truth.
Yeah, the narrative.
It's time for kids to know, all kids of all kinds, and grown-ups to know, of all kinds, that Black history didn't start with slavery.
Nope.
If you haven't introduced your students to Anthony Browder's Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization.
Nile Valley, Kemet, and Nubia.
if you haven't introduced your students to the book Stop Falling for the Okie Doke, you haven't done your students a fair job. It's time for these kids to hear from Robert Wald Sussman's book, which is The Myth of Race, that this whole thing is a myth. And it's time to stop believing the myth.
Exactly. I love the fact she said this whole thing is a myth, and which is very true, because globally we live in a myth, especially white people. Let me tell you, we might have been fooled, but I feel like actually the most fooled race, and it's sad if they know or they don't know their history. The most fooled part is, which we keep on talking about. Leave alone even
Yes,
playing
Joby, you're right.
the white, the superior, the white
Go
supremacy.
So Joby, what you're saying is actually the truth. So now you're wise enough to know it. Yeah, they're the most propagandized, but they want to believe that propaganda because it makes them feel good. So if I'm the elite, Joby, and I'm ruling the world, I need my people that I need help for them to rule, to help me stay in control. I need them to be the most propagandized too, Joby. I need them to believe the lies.
How crazy this is and how psychopathic it is. Man, this is just so crazy. Like, this is crazy. Not only did you fool another race, stole power, history, everything about them from them, and still stealing, you also fooled your own race to believe in this BS myth that you came up with, to keep on stealing from other people who had original power, to make your people feel like they're really superior and powerful. This is just so crazy, like so deep. But yes, why people are really the most propagandized, because propagandized, whatever.
That's it, propagandized.
Yeah, that's the most lied to, because is how you walk thinking you are the shit here, but you ain't. Even literally, scientifically, you ain't shit. That is just the truth. Scientifically, you're weak. You can't even fight. Well, let's say for you to, if they could try, try to win a battle with black people, come physically.
But that's why they develop weapons, because they can't fight hand to hand. That's why they develop weapons.
I'm certain even a starving child in Sudan will kick your balls. That's what I'm certain about. They are weak. The only power they have to threaten Africans about is like Israel. You can't have a nuclear weapon, But
that's why they developed weapons, Joe, because they couldn't fight black people hand to hand. That's why they developed guns and other weapons, Joe. But they can't win a hand-to-hand fight. The weaker than us.
It's crazy, but I love that what she said. This is all a myth we're really living in. It's the same thing we keep on saying, or the simple term, an illusion. It's an illusion. We're living in an illusion. A world we've been lied so much about, so much that we need to. You think about it, and this is why I think this is the part where
we go back to something I asked you 4 years ago, Joby. How do you unlearn a lie?
God damn, it's hard. It's shocking. Traumatizing. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a journey for me. Sometimes traumatizes me. It shocks me that we're really living in this. It's really real. And you look at the people who are just living ignorantly, like life is good. Like life is good, yeah, but life ain't good.
That's why Eric Tom ran to the back office.
Life is good, but ain't good. So you need to snap out of the illusions you've been given and live in reality. And once you discover the reality, that's what I'm saying. I think you'd go back to the biblical reference of Revelation, where they said, because it's their writing, some people will go crazy discovering most of this truth, because you're like, how? What do you mean Jesus ain't true? I'm gonna jump from a 12th
because you've been propagandized your whole life, believing a lie. So when you hear the truth, your whole life you've been living a lie. So a lot of people would rather jump on that building than to deal with the truth, Joe. That's why your time ran to the back.
That's mark of the beast. I don't know. The mark of the beast, we know, of course, is the VSCIN, is they're giving people and all that. You can't discover all this. You're going nuts. But let me wind up with this.
And it's time to stop teaching the myth. And it's time to realize that blacks were doing cataract surgery with metal instruments before there were hospitals in Europe. It's time to.
How about that?
It's time to realize that blacks were intelligent, creative, adventurous, curious, brilliant people.
When studying
Yeah, so let me share the last
The
one.
more I find out about slavery, the more I can't sleep at night. While we're on the topic of
Yep.
comfort women and what happened in World War II, let's jump back into what happened in slavery because a lot of you guys want me to cover that. It goes so much farther than slaves and plantations. The things that were being done to Black people during this time was nothing short of sinister. Like, it was pure evil. You know the common first word that we have, mf'er? Do you know that comes from when they would take Black male slaves and to break their confidence if they came across too alpha, they would take them to an area
They rape
where
them.
it could become a spectacle and publicly R-word them. These
They would rape them. It's like they would rape them.
male white
They would
slave owners
sodomize
would
them.
publicly R-word, like brutally R-word
Yeah, that's
these
right.
men
Put the piece
to
rape
break
them.
their spirit in front of everyone.
Right.
And they would make sure
Sure.
that their mothers, their wives,
See
their
it.
children were there to watch. And in other instances, if they
So
were
what
going
this
to
would do,
R-word the
pause
slaves
that. So pause
themselves,
that, Joe. So what they would do, that would shock the mind of the woman. See, this, because they know the woman is the superior of everything. So this would shock the mind of the African woman. It would destroy her mind. So her man's not able to protect her. And so she would raise all her sons as cowards because her love would actually make her sons coward because she didn't want to see her own babies be raped. So she would raise subservient, weak men, not to fight this white man because she didn't want to see her babies murdered or raped. So they would always bring the women out there and rape the strongest man in front of them. So it would shock her mind, would destroy her mind, and make sure she would stay in subjugation and servitude to this white man and raise her children the same way. Because remember, the first raising of the children is the woman, mama. So mama would say, "Don't you say nothing bad about that white man. You just do what he does. It's his world. You be quiet, baby. You just do whatever he says you do. You say yes, bossa. You just hold your head down. Don't ever speak up. Don't ever be no man. You don't ever fight back, baby. You just do what that white man tell you to do." That's why they did it. Because a woman raises the next son. So you raising a level of coons later, generation of coon ass Negroes. They're not warriors.
spirit by having them R-word their own mothers. And that's where the word mf'er came from. So next time you're saying
Yeah,
that,
MF.
double think. And this was the beginning of trying to
They
break down the father, the man in the Black household. Don't even get me started on that, y'all. Systemic racism is crazy. Now going on to the women. Did you know that when they wanted to study anything medical, when it comes to like the health of a white woman, they would try it first on a Black woman. Oftentimes, C-sections were performed on Black women when they were completely awake. No anesthesia, nothing was given to them. And if they somehow survived during this, they would take the babies and they would, man, I don't even know if I can say this without getting banned. Viewer discretion is advised. TikTok, this is for educational purposes only. Please do not take it.
It's so brutal, so
they would
wicked.
take their babies, bury them, bro, I can't even talk about this. They would bury them and have their heads above the ground, and they would basically play golf with
their heads.
Craniums. Or if a woman had a baby, a Black woman had a baby.
Imagine the mindset. You got a baby buried in the ground, got the head, and you're hitting the baby's head with a golf stick. Can you imagine the psychopath, the psychopathy that you got conquered by? You now in the hands of psychopaths. That's why they want none of this history told. The level of inhumanity. You can't fathom this. The African mind cannot fathom this kind of inhumanity because it's not your nature. You can't fathom. We can fathom because sadly enough we've been engulfed with these people. But a regular African off the continent who only got a few years of colonialism has not been taught that, because it's the same thing was in colonialism was wicked as hell too. Everywhere they go, it's wicked. Everywhere it is, it's wicked. But us still being in the belly of the beast. That's why they say, "Oh, we can't teach no African American history. You got to check out the books because you can't be in a classroom." Here, they took your mama's baby after they experimented on your mama and she died, and the baby they put in the ground and put the head up over the ground and went to beating on the child's head until it died. You're like, what kind of people are these? What kind of person is this? Then you realize you're not fucking with a human being. You're not. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I've had a baby. They would force the black women to nurse the white baby while
White baby.
they watched their own child starve to death, and it would be forbidden for them to feed their own child. The babies
Couldn't feed your own child, but your white baby be on the black woman's titty feeding off the black woman's milk, and your own baby would die, starve to death. He's like,
that was a common thing as well. And to top it all off, there were some plantations. This is going to be crazy. There were some plantations that even consumed the meat of their slaves. And obviously,
they eat them.
You guys have seen it in the museum. They've used their hair as cushion for seats, for furniture. Slavery was so much more than they teach you in history class.
Of course, that
being taught in history
way
class
much more. It's not.
But it's so much more. It's very much simplified and made more palatable because they don't want you to know exactly what happened. They don't want you to know the evil, the fact that the devil was present during that time.
They're still very present. They are very, very present. They don't want to teach you who they are. That's what they don't want to teach you. They want to, put this. Our politicians have put up. We're collaborating. We're partnering. These people are giving us ways. They're showing us actually civilization that we didn't have as Negroes. That's the type of
nonsense.
Propaganda spread, which is so crazy, man. This should make you mad. And this is why I'm just here thinking, and I'm like, you have the nerve as a black man.
It will make you mad. That's why they don't want to teach you. They know you're going to revolt and you're going to take back your power. That's why they don't. That's why it's not taught, Joe.
You have the nerve as a black man, as a black woman, going to put your penis, your coochie on a white man, and you're very comfortable. We're integrating. You're into what? This is just shame on anyone, actually. Shout out to someone like Zoe, because he does have baby mamas who are white, if I'm not wrong. That is
good luck. Exactly. Try to hide that from us. Hide that shit.
Shame on someone like Zoe. And if you're here actually and you did that mistake, I'm sorry. Yeah, you didn't know better, but it's a shame. It's a shame if you know all this and you still choose to be ignorant. It should be a shame that you're sleeping with someone who did this kind of what should make you try.
Don't you think that's a disrespect to your ancestors, Joby?
Exactly. No, I actually feel it's a disrespect to myself. Why should I trust someone who killed my own kind, sleep with you on the same bed? You are a psychopath. You are from
and even when they sleep with you, Joby, they still practice the same racism. They're still racist.
Because what should make me trust an enemy, someone who has killed my generation before? Why should I trust a mad person that today, because
they don't want from the clinic, they don't want you to know that
I've been on a 1 month rehab now. Today should be, he's fine. That's okay. He's not gonna go crazy. Then he wake up stabbing me, and then who's gonna be shocked here?
As that Kenyan lady, Joby, you reported on like 2 years ago, whose credit card she got lost in Wyoming somewhere, and the white man had a credit card.
This is crazy. This is just crazy. And it gets worse because this is just the tip. I believe there's so much more we don't know, because every day there's just
so much more that we don't know, Joby. That's right. We're never gonna know the full extent, Joby. We're never gonna know the full. We're never gonna know the full extent, Joby. We're only gonna know pieces of it.
I've never heard you talk about what they used to dig babies and use the head as this is the first time I'm bumping into such information. This is
it's only so much I can say, Joe. It's more and more evil and wicked. You tell me not to talk about it. You tell me not to even show.
I'm saying it's shocking because there's so much to discover that you think you've really had it all. You've not even had a quarter of everything. We
haven't scratched the surface, Joe. We heard him peeing in people's mouths, defecating in people's mouths. We haven't heard the half of it. Just imagine being captured and servitude for the and we don't even know what the ones they South Africans when they were in slavery they had to be just as worse. So we haven't even heard that. I mean, scratch the surface of the evilness because a lot of stuff they didn't keep records of, and a lot of stuff they don't. It died with the person. So and a lot of history is lost. So and they don't want that history out, Joe, because that's why it's never taught nowhere.
I hope if I was among the people taken from Africa, probably during that time, I hope I was one among the people who jumped from the to the
Bro,
water and chose to die because
do
there's
this,
no way.
do this, do this,
There's
do this
no
for me
way.
real quick, Joe, before we leave. Go to because it's either go to TikTok. Well, TikTok would be easy because it'd be a shorter video, like a minute and a half. Say type on TikTok, search say the Africans who refused to be slaves and went out and drowned themselves in the Atlantic. Say the Africans who drowned themselves in the Atlantic that refused to be slaves. So this is Joby. As a guy in America that refused to be slaves, they all just went out to the ocean and drowned themselves.
You didn't even allow me to tell that story, man. But anyway, I was saying if I was among the people who are taken from Africa, I hope that's how I jumped because there's no way with this soul I have of being a rebel.
You wouldn't know, but you wouldn't have known yet what was going on. You wouldn't you didn't know what you were going into yet, Joe. You know you was captured.
No.
You didn't know where you were going yet.
I might not have known, but we still had the spirit of fighting because number one,
Of course.
when you're treating people, you're beating people, you're
Of course.
feeding people chitlins and evil, some rotten porridge and I don't know, some crazy food, just not making sense. And then you expect me to be calm because we've seen as on the action of most of the videos, some of the women try to be a little bit rebel, when they saw their husbands being beaten or their children being taken away from them. But there's nothing you could do. You could yell, you could scream, try to fight back. They're gonna beat you back. But yeah, I'm just hoping I'm one among the women who tried to fight back if I didn't jump from the ship because it's crazy. It's
Probably
crazy.
did. I'm sure. Exactly. Crazy. Exactly. Say the group of Africans who walked into the ocean, into the Atlantic Ocean, who refused to be slaves.
As we wind up.
And all just said, we're not gonna do this.
A lot of Westerners see African people siding with Russia and think that Africans have been propagandized to think that evil Russia.
Yeah.
Hundreds of enslaved Africans thrown into the ocean alive. Why? Because the ship's captain wanted insurance money. This is the horrifying story of the Zong massacre. In 1781, the Zong, a British slave ship, left Africa with over 400 enslaved people, double its safe capacity. The conditions, terrible. No space, little food, and disease spreading fast. People were dying, and the captain, Luke Collingwood, made a chilling decision. Instead of losing money on 6 slaves, he decided to drown them and claim insurance. One by one, over 130 men.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm not talking about this story. Yeah, they killed them.
But no one on that ship stopped it. And then, the crew tried to cash in. They claimed the enslaved people were lost at sea and demanded insurance money for their deaths. But the insurers refused to pay. The case went to court, but it wasn't about murder. No, the trial was about whether the insurers should pay for damaged goods, not human lives. That's how little they valued black people. The court ruled that throwing enslaved people overboard was just like throwing away spoiled cargo. No justice.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is another one. Like, you see what I'm talking about? This is crazy. Like, oh my God. Okay.
And Mexican people, y'all can bring y'all ass here. Yay, slick. It's your turn. Did y'all know that Mexicans owned enslaved Africans for some 300 years? And in fact, it helped build up over 65% of what we know.
I don't know. Let me see. Africans who refused.
Wow. It should be easy story. Say Africans Africans arrive in America and decide to drown themselves. Africans arrive in America and decide to to drown themselves instead of being slaves. It's a well-known story. They come from what would be called Nigeria today, but not really Nigeria. They were taken from inland, might have been the Congo, Central African Republic, Uganda, all inland, walked to the sea, and were captured, taken to America, and they said, nah, we're not going to be slaves. They just decided to go drown themselves. That might be one of them. What are they saying? You didn't give them a chance to talk. Let's see what somebody's saying. No, that's the one you just
Every
showed.
black person living should go to Ghana and see.
Africans sold their own into slavery. I hate this.
In 1803, 75.
Here it is. That's probably right there. That's probably what he was saying. 1803. That's probably it right here.
1803, 75 Igbos were drowned. Dunbar Creek in Georgia.
That's it.
What actually happened? They were decoyed into a slave ship. They were not bought. They were not paid for. A lot of them were shown incentives. If you join me back to my place, you come back with all these. They volunteered. They were mainly my own people. Yoma Bala, my people. So they were decoyed into the slave ship. Inside the slave ship, they now saw implements. The good slaves being pilloried.
They fooled them into slavery.
The fighting began from there. By the time they got to Dunbar Creek, they went back to the ship, killed the other two people who piloted the ship to that place. Because they decided to allow them. Because they killed them. And when they came out, they saw that they were to be sold into slavery. And they said, people come as slaves. Not at home, not outside. And they decided that rather than be sold as slaves, let them drown. And they said, Omabala brought us here. Omabala will take us back.
They were drown themselves out the coast of Atlanta. Exactly. They drowned themselves, what we call Savannah today. They went and drowned themselves. Said, we're not going to be nobody's motherfucking slaves. You got us effed up. We can't fight all you because now we brought all you white people, but we'll either fight to the death. I said, nah, let's just turn around. There's no such thing as death. We're just walking through the ocean and come back again. We're not going to be nobody's slave. That's out.
It's crazy. But yes, family, that has been our topic for the day. Is slavery a black history or a white history? Let us know in the comment section what you think about this particular conversation on Rumble Beach. On YouTube, those who shall be catching this on a replay. But I see Baron Scott on the building. Karibu Sana, we're doing amazing.
Going on, Cassius?
See, it did say Aristotle was an extrapolation.
Aristotle's words and extrapolation or a compilation of Egyptian philosophers. They all were exactly fake. Exactly right. There's no proof that these Aristotle, all these fake Greek people, they're made up. They are extrapolation. Oh, let me say they're extrapolation of African proverbs or African writings given to white people. Exactly right, Byron.
It also says the Bible has been used as the ultimate weapon against humanity by the European. They tried to draw mosquito. Cassius Williams, he says this is anti-reparations. Jen L. This lady is a fraud.
Jane Elliott.
Indian or black for reparations. He also says ask Jen Elliott about reparations. She changes her tune. She add Red Indian in the equation when they already got reparations. Crazy. But anyway, family, we're coming to the end of today's session right here. This has been the Pan-African Bliss, and I've been your host, Joby, of course, joined by Mr. Black on Fire. Hope to see you guys in a few on the Tubonge, of course.
Joby don't even remember what's going on.
So ensure you tune in and catch up with the conversation. Much love. Have a beautiful part of your day.
We're going to slave Joby around Black Hot Fire, have her cooking all kind of golly for us for free.